Hello my lovelies and welcome back to my channel. Today is day 2 of our sew along. Today we'll be sewing the shoulder seams, the neckline and the side seams. If you are doing the sleeveless option, you'll be doing the burrito roll that I will show you in detail in just a second. If you're not, you'll just be doing you'll be adding the sleeves tomorrow. So let's get started. You should have for today's pieces 2 for the front and 2 for the back, or either the same fabric or one main and one lining. I'm starting with my main fabric. I'm going to do this on the sewing machine for the burrito roll because it does look a little smoother with less bulk in the seams. So I'm going to start by aligning my shoulder seams, right sides together, and you're going to stitch this down with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and you want to do that using a stretch stitch. You don't want to sew with a straight stitch because it will pop. You want to give the fabric some a chance to keep its elasticity. So for that I'm going to use a triple stretch stitch with 3.5 length and 3.8 tension. Play around with some scraps to see how you like the settings you've chosen, because it will depend on the fabric that you're using, it will depend on your machine. I know in my case I do like this setting, 3.5 length and 3.8 tension. Definitely test it on a scrap of the same fabric you're using for your main outfit. Okay, so this is what it will look like, and repeat for the other side. If you find that you have a hard time sewing knits on your sewing machine because they may be too flimsy, or your machine wants to eat your fabric up and get it nested under there, there's a few things you can do to troubleshoot it. One, if you have the ability to lift, to increase the distance between your presser foot and your dog feet, definitely start with that, just a tiny bit. But if not, one thing you could use is just a simple tissue placed under, or some water-soluble stabilizer, and that will help feed the dogs and not allow for the fabric to get in. My favorite is not the tissue, definitely. My favorite is water-soluble stabilizer. I'm trying to see if I have any close by. You can use the transparent one or the opaque one. It doesn't really matter. As long as it's water soluble, it will disappear once you dab it with a wet cloth, and that will also help your dog feed. You can also change your presser foot to either a walking foot that will help feed the fabric equally both at the top and at the bottom. That's one option. Another option that works for knits is, I'm trying to see if I can find it here so I can show it to you. I've just used it. Oh, this one. A Teflon foot. A Teflon foot would work as well for knits. And I have one more, this one, that I wanted to show you. It's a roller foot. I got it off Amazon. It has a little wheel here. I don't know if you can see it. Come on. I'm telling you, this lens loves that stitch. Okay. So see, it has a little roller on the bottom, so it helps feed the fabric a little easier. So this would work great for knits. or like I said, a walking foot or a Teflon foot. My machine is not really giving me a hard time, so I don't really change my feet for knits, but those are some things to keep in mind. Also, like I said, water soluble stabilizer right here on your needle plate. It will definitely help you out. Okay, so once you've sewn the main, you're going to repeat the same thing for the lining. So in my case, it's the same fabric for the lining. So again, right sides together at the shoulder seam. Three-eighths of an inch seam allowance. And as with any knits, once you've sewn them, whether it's with your serger or your sewing machine, you may see some waviness, and it's totally normal. It's because of all the tension put on your knits as you sew. All you have to do is give your seams a good steam press, and it will go back to being a perfectly straight seam. So it's minor, well, in this case, because I'm using a pretty thick cotton lycra, there's no stretch. But sometimes you see a little waviness. That's absolutely okay. It will disappear once you give it a good press. So you have your lining and your main. Now you want to open both up, like so. Lay your lining right side up. Lay your main right side down. This way they are right sides together. And you can either press your seams open, or you can press one seam towards the front, one seam towards the back, right here, this one. Don't have both going the same way, because it will create unnecessary bulk. Just press one to the left, one to the right, and add a pin just to hold it in place. And you're going to pin all around the neckline, same way. Together, and you want your seams to go in opposite, seam allowances to go in opposite directions. Whether you're doing the sleeved option or you're doing the sleeveless option, these steps will be the same. So this is what it looks like, the neckline, all pinned. So we're going to go ahead and sew all around it with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I'll start with the back. And again, I'm sewing with the same triple stretch stitch. You can use a very narrow zigzag stitch, or you can use a lightning bolt stitch, but my favorite is definitely a triple stretch stitch. I've never had one of these babies pop ever with a triple stretch. You keep your raw edges aligned. So this is what it will look like once you finish stitching. And I want to show you a close-up of the triple stretch stitch. So you can see how beautifully it stretches. See? Nothing pops. So your child can definitely put this over the head without any issues. And this is on the back. And I do believe most machines have it. So it shouldn't be something that you're not able to find on yours. Okay, now you want to put a few snips in the neckline, because we'll turn it over and we can top stitch or under stitch. So I'm going to put a few snips. So it lays nice and flat. Make sure when you do these snips you don't go past, or you don't snip your threads. You go close to them but not all the way in, okay? Okay, so I'm going to turn it just to show you how it looks like turned, and then we'll do the burrito roll. Right now you want to go ahead and give it a good press. On the neckline, so it will lay nice and flat. And then you decide if you want to top stitch or under stitch. I personally prefer under stitching when I have lining like this, so the top stays nice and flat. So I'll show you how I do my under stitching. So this is what it looks like right now. So to under stitch, I'm going to basically stitch the seam allowance, so this part, to the lining, and that's it, not to the main. If you top stitch, you top stitch on the outside all around. If you under stitch, you just stitch the seam allowance down to the lining, and that is what I prefer to do, so that's what I'm going to do right now. I like the cleaner look better. So for top stitching and under stitching, use a longer stitch length. Under stitching will prevent the lining to peek through on the outside. And I'm going all around, stitching the seam allowance at about 1/4 of an inch to the line. And then I will go ahead and give it a good press. So right now, from the outside, it will look exactly like it did before when I showed it. Okay, nothing, it will just be pressed once I press it. On the lining side, you will see the stitching. And you see the stitching right here? That is the lining side. Even though mine has the same fabric, it is the lining. So Peter Pan is the lining. So you can see a stitch from here. That is what understitching is. And it will give your finished dress a beautifully handcrafted look. So right now, if you're planning on adding the sleeves tomorrow, what you will do is, with the right sides together, you will take the front and the back, so just the right sides, place them right sides together and sew the side seam. Okay? And then you'll repeat on the other side and have the side seam sewn. So I'm going to show you quickly here. I'm not going to stitch it because I'm doing a sleeveless option with burrito roll, but I just want to show you what I mean. So you'll take the front and the back of the main, bring them right sides together and stitch them on the side. Then you're going to take the same thing, the bottom part, and the lining side seams, right sides together, and you're going to stitch them down with the same 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on both sides. Okay, so you can pretend that these are stitched together. So right now when you open it up and you bring your lining and main wrong sides together, this is what it will look like. You will have raw edges at the sleeve for tomorrow, in preparation for tomorrow when we'll be adding the sleeves. And your side seams are now stitched and enclosed, so there is no raw edge on the side seam. Okay. This is for the sleeve option, the one with the sleeves, whether it's the circle sleeves or the regular sleeves. This is how you'll do your sleeves, okay? And this is it. You are done for today. You will just snap a picture, post it in the day to comment. Now I'm doing the sleeveless option, so I'm going to do the burrito roll. Let me take off my pins, my faux stitching, and I'm going to take you to the table and show you how to do the burrito roll in details. But before that, I'm going to go ahead and give this a good press, which I encourage you to do the same. Let's sew the sleeveless option using the burrito roll method. Take the pieces that you've just sewn. I did go ahead and give my neckline a good press. See how beautiful it looks. This is right side up. I am using the same fabric for both the main and the lining, so if it makes it easier for you to remember, my main fabric is Ariel. Like if you see Ariel like centered, that's the main, and this is the lining with Peter Pan and I don't know, Geppetto. So this is my lining. My main fabric is features Ariel. So for the burrito roll, place your fabric right side up and open your lining and your main on one of the side seams. So this is your side seam. This is the arm side. Okay, so open it up like I did right now. We're going to be working on this side. The opposite side, you want to roll like a cigar. So that, or like a burrito, because that's why it's called a burrito roll. So you want to roll that tightly, as tight as you can get it, all the way here. So when it reaches the other side, you want to place your main on top of the rolled part right now, okay? So I'm going to flip it so the wrong side faces the table, and I'm going to bring my sides, right sides together, and that little cigar that we rolled, you can see it, it's right in here. Okay? This is the fabric that we rolled. It stays right inside. And you want to pin all around the sleeve. and the side seam. So you're pinning right sides together, your main and lining. Okay. So this is what it will look like. So now that I've finished pinning, I did pin all the way just to keep my fabric. So I pinned the side seams, I pinned the arm side, and I pinned the side seam. I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew from here to here. So I'm going to sew the arm opening on my sewing machine, not the side seams, just the arm opening. Make sure that when you do stitch, you keep your little roll away from the stitching. You don't want to catch here inside. You have that little burrito, so that needs to be staying out of all the stitches. So let me do a quick stitch. Alright, so I went ahead and stitched it. You can see it's stitched all the way around here. So now you're going to unclip the side seams and you want to flip this, open it, and just pull your little burrito through it. You see? It's pretty easy to pull out. Awesome. So now on one side, the top one, again, the top as I look at it with the main, remember Ariel is the main. So see now, this one is seamed and enclosed beautifully. So let's do the same thing, but on the opposite side, on this side, you see? We're going to be taking our little roll and creating it again, but on the other side. So this one that it's already sewn, you want to roll it like so. All the way here, okay? And now I'm opening up the main and the lining, like so. I'm going to put the lining right with the wrong side towards the table. And once again, I'm going to pin all around the raw edges and stitch at the arm opening. Okay, make sure that when you do pin this, the inside, the roll inside is pushed all the way down. You don't want to have that in the seams. And again, the seam allowances go in the opposite direction here to reduce bulk. Match the shoulder seam and pin it in place, and then put a few pins along the arm opening. This is what it looks like pinned, and we're going to go ahead and stitch around the arm opening, not the side seam, just the arm opening. Let's stitch with a triple stretch stitch. Make sure to feel it with your hands that your burrito does not go in the stitching. Last thing you want to do is seam rip a triple stretch stitch. Trust me, I've done it Do not recommend. Not fun. As you can see, it is stitched all the way around the arm opening. Let me remove the pin from the side seam. So it should look something like this. And just as we did before, you're going to pull your remainder of the fabric through the opening. Ta-da! So now your arms are stitched beautifully with the seaming closed. Super sensory friendly. Love it. Okay. Last step for today, we're going to sew the side seams, just like I told you earlier you would do if you add sleeves. So this is my main. Remember, Ariel is my main. We're going to place this right sides together like so. So now your main and lining are right sides together. I'm going to move the seam allowances one in one direction, one in one direction, and put a couple of pins. So I'm basically sewing lining to lining and main to main right now. Okay, and we're going to stitch all the way down. So now I'm turning it so I show you how it looks like from the outside. See, your seam allowances, you can press them open right now. The side seam allowances. Press them open. And there you have it. On one side, obviously it will look a lot neater once I give it a good press. And this is from the right side. So now everything is enclosed. There's no raw edges anywhere. See? Gorgeous. So let's do the same thing on the other side. So once again, we're moving towards on the other side seam, the one that still is not sewn. So I'm going to take my bodies front and back and bring them right sides together at the side seam, and the lining right sides together at the side seam. Move your seam allowances in opposite direction and pin it in place. And there you have it. So now you're going to stitch all the way, just like we did before. That's it. Flip it right side out. And all you have to do right now is give it a good press. So your bodice is finished. All the seams are enclosed. I'm going to go ahead, give it a good press along all the seams that I've just done. Remove any excess waviness, and then snap a picture of the bodice as your progress for day 2. Make sure that you check in with that picture in the comments of day 2 photo of the Sew Along album. You'll find the album in the Backstitch Backroom on Facebook. And I will see you back here tomorrow to add the sleeves, and I will do the sleeves on my other dress. If you're not adding sleeves and you're doing just the sleeveless option, tomorrow is a rest day or a catch-up day, and I will see you back the day after to create the skirt with the pockets. Talk to you soon. Bye!